Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is in the world. Welcome, Free Enterprise community, to the Thursday night Community Club showcase for the Pink Puff League. I am Ent, and before we really get into more introductions, I want to give a quick shout out, of course, to Bad Karma for the gift subs in the chat, as well as a quick shout out to Oscar424 for vetting and rolling the seed for tonight. She is, of course, the person who has put together the Pink Puff League with help from other members of the community, so I want to make sure that she's getting the credit she deserves for what we're about to see. Tonight on stream, we will have Karant on the left and Ultras Professional on the right, both very long-term members of the community. I'm very excited to see them both going. Joining us on the Restream team tonight, behind the scenes, are Neo Bari on the Restream, as well as Tybalt doing the tracking. And joining me today on commentary is, of course, the one and only Possum Morpheus. Possum, how are you doing today?
Oh, hey, that's me. I'm doing really well, and I appreciate that introduction. That was fantastic. Now I'll try to follow it up as best I can. I'm definitely doing better now that I get to do comms with a wonderful partner such as yourself and not have to worry about work for hopefully 90 minutes to 2 hours, assuming everything goes well for our runners. And I kind of preface the as long as everything goes well part because we have a fantastic new flag that is being introduced as a challenge for our runners. You may see objective number 1 on your screen as Launch the Falcon. That is a forced hook route now as an option in the beta branch that is currently available. So our runners are mandated to go through and do objective number 1 come heck or high water. That's how they have to get underground. So I am super excited to see how our runners traverse that obstacle. What are your thoughts on that end?
I'm very interested in how the force hook flag will change the way that runners approach the early game. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot, is that there is a tendency, at least in the way I play, and I'm not a particularly great runner myself. I'm decent. But when I find a hook route, I keep looking for a magma key. And I'm kind of wondering, how does it change that early game first steps when you see that hook and you know that's your only underground access? Or when you know that you have to hunt for that hook route, so you need like a specific setup of characters to try and make sure that you can get down that hook route properly, because anchoring, very important on that part.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we look at what we have here. A pass does not help you get underground, and Edward doesn't really help you get underground, not gonna lie. The spoon flag is on at least as our partner character. Kane is a fantastic starter, to be completely honest. He helps with both mage situations as a fast character to be able to buffer the queue for them, and also helps to get through tricky things like Val. So lots of very early punchy power with that Kane as long as we can find him a good weapon. Uh, it'll be very interesting to see how our runners traverse this. Will they opt to keep that Edward on the ground as a 9 agility anchor? He can be very useful in that regard, to your point about anchoring.
Absolutely, and a good point was just brought up by Berserk now in chat as well, that the See No Dupes flag is also on, which means that there's no guarantee that they'll have even a full party going down that hook route. So there's a question of whether or not you'll want that extra body up at a certain point too, just to tank hits, that sort of thing, especially with we're seeing another Edward here at this free spot. So it's not entirely likely with the free characters still out there, but it's still a possibility.
Yeah, the one nice thing this does let you do though with the free characters, and of course this is, Pink Puff Seeds, so we want them to have access to the tools to successfully complete the hook route regardless of whatever bosses are there. And we know that it is a specially curated hook route for our runners as well that Asuka has decided to dream up for them. But we're already seeing things because of T Wildish for the loot. We are seeing a power shirt already from the waterfall. That is plus 15 strength. That is so fantastic. That's 2 full multipliers basically to a cane for damage. That makes a slumber sword quite a powerful weapon early on, even.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's an element too, Asuka sent us both a little bit of a message that she wanted to have read out. I think it's kind of relevant a little bit to what you were talking about with the curated hook route. And let me pull it up here to make sure I have it. Is she know that she chosen the specific seed because she likes these kind of cheeky seeds, and that this one has a pretty amusing cheekiness to it, including after the hook route's been defeated. So what that sort of tells me a little bit from that little bit of information is that it might not even be as spicy of a hook route as you might expect from, okay, what's a good challenge for the Puffs too. It might be sort of a thing where, you're trying to give them a little bit of a challenge and let the challenge ramp up afterwards too. And I think finding things like that power shirt, like you mentioned, is going to be really helpful, especially where we're not finding really many mages so far outside of like Rosa's a white mage who you could use for physical damage. This is not a big magic damage team yet.
Well, it just got a lot better because Karant decided to loot Damsian, and the Damsian treasury randomly with a tier 6 spike in there. That is a Stardust Rod. That will automatically turn any black mage into a much better black mage, including my personal favorite black mage, Tella. Once you go up ordeals, Stardust Rod Tella doing some level 3 magic can really do work. There's a Rydia we see now. There was a Rosa from the Mysidia characters to go with that Tella. So a good selection of different characters for our runners. A good selection of anchors as well. With Rydia being a possibility, Tella being a possibility, Edward being a possibility. So a lot of options for our runners, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they approach things.
That was actually going to be sort of my next question here a little bit, is you have that Stardust Rod. Right now, the only people you can really put it on are that Tella, which it helps. It's not massively good in that Rydia. Does that affect whether or not you might want to use that Rydia as an anchor if you know that you already have something to give her a big power spike right now?
I think on Karant's side, the fact that you have a power shirt and a bandana already means that he's going to be really, really strong. And one of the things about forced hook routes and assuming the worst here, and if I were playing a specially curated seed, I would assume that it'd be something really mean and nasty and ugly on the hook route. Generally, really mean, nasty, and ugly things don't like magic because they tend to be really rude moon bosses and things like that. So I would look to lean into Berserker strats. And for me, that would make Rydia or Edward the primary anchor. I would love to keep an active Tele going because he has Blink, he has Berserk, and he has all sorts of black magic available. So it just depends on what our runner recognition is and if they are keen to that kind of development, or if they opt to go with more of a mage-centric focus, which is certainly viable as well against almost anything but like exactly an Ogopogo maybe, or a Val. But Val wouldn't be on the hook route anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And even then, if there's a Val on the hook route, if worst comes to worst, they could jump her out a spin with that cane too. I'm not sure that would necessarily be the best idea because I believe that means she starts punching, and that's not going to be fun for anyone. But it is a possibility that they could get around that Val without any sort of other way of dealing with it too.
Yeah, most definitely. And it looks like we have Karant making a check up on Mount Hobbs, and we see the Magus sisters with a conveniently placed Gaia drum right there, just ready to be used on them, and a Cecil. Now, I got excited because I saw a crystal armor get picked up. That puts cover strats on the table, and to me, cover strat Cecil is one of the most underrated things in this entire game. So that would make me very excited.
Yeah, especially with the back row glitch still in effect in the seed. This is on the beta branch where there is an ability to remove the back row glitch, but it is still turned on for this. So you can have that cover Cecil in the back row, not taking anywhere near as much damage with the full crystal armor, just really tanking everything. And I think you're definitely 100% right here. If one of our racers uses those cover strats well, it could get to a very large advantage just from not needing to worry so much about everyone else.
Yeah, and then there's the other Cecil factor. And that other Cecil factor is on T Wildage, you have roughly a 39%. It's somewhere between 35 and 40% chance of hitting a tier 8 item from a trap chest in Eblin Castle. There's 3 trap chests there. That means you have nearly a 100% chance, on average, to hit an Excalibur Crystal Sword, which definitely then gives you the ability to get through almost anything on any hook route.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even then, just beyond the hook route too, we gotta see there's gotta be something really tricky here. If it was specifically mentioned that the hook route is not the only stumbling block here. And that's sort of the thing about these like vetted seeds and like that, is that you know that that other shoe has to drop at some point. And I'm wondering, how much of a big advantage that would be for dealing with whatever the next big problem would be after that too.
Definitely. And I mean, that next big problem, if we look at the bosses, it's, K main, Summon, and Moon. You could see like a required rude boss at the Leviathan spot in the Feymarch. So the fun might not be over just then. Looks like, speaking of fun, there was an octopus swimming in the sand in the Antlion cave, and it gave another crystal armor. So not the value that our runners were looking for, but does put Ultra's Professional up an Antlion check currently over Current.
Yeah, and really when we look at it too, we know that they're going to have to get underground either way too, because of these objectives beyond just the launch the Falcon. We have that destroy the super cannon on there as well. So at this point in time, yeah, that's a big bonus having that objective, but it's going to depend on whether or not Current remembers to go back and check. And I gotta think that he will eventually. He's probably just looking for good reason to at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And, picking up things like a Blizzard Spear and a Silk Web, those are 2 very important items for us to remember and for the runners to remember. Because, if we know it's a curated hook route, let's say it's a Kanatsu there. Well, when the waves are down on Kanatsu, it's weak to ice. Blizzard Spear with a power shirt and a bandana would do work against Kanatsu on the hook route, as long as you can nerf a wave or 2. The Silk Web, really important as well, because it slows down. It applies 2 stacks of slow to whatever would be there. Less good against Ogopogo, because you get an extra counter blaze, but really good against almost anything else. So it'll be very interesting to see what the hook route boss is and how our runners approach it. And we do see Ultra's Professional taking the route of, I am anchoring with this Rydia. The Stardust Rod goes on Tella. And it looks like Current going to go anchorless for right now, not knocking anyone off at this current time. So 2 very varying strategies already from our runners.
Definitely. And one more thing I want to note about over on Ultra's Professional side is on the way up Mount Ordeals here, she did manage to pick up a Dancing Dagger to place on her Edward. So that'll make Edward somewhat of a bit of a force early on. It sort of moves him from being basically unable to do anything to being able to, throw out 400 every now and again. So that's pretty good. Pretty good pickup there.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a testy little fight, though. This Bahamut might be able to squeeze the damage out with a really good, clean inputs, but this is a pretty tight window to get everyone to do that damage before Bahamut fires. We'll see if Ultras can get there. If not, there's a Star Veil up on Rosa, so she's through no matter what, and actually has Kane in the air for a little swag here. So Tella and Eddie die, which is kind of whatever. Rosa and Kane live, they get that XP, and that's honestly the important part. Those are the 2 members you really want that XP on.
Definitely. And meanwhile, over on the other side, Current going to go back for another attempt at these Magus Sisters to get Cecil. Is going to just dump off the Edward at this point in time, decide he does not need Edward anymore, unfortunately. Maybe we'll see that Edward come back later at a point if we need him for anchoring purposes, but for now, just going to go with this party, and that's looking like a pretty strong setup once he gets it really rolling here.
Yeah, I like Current's party composition better, just simply because of the inclusion of the Cecil. But I like Ultros' decision to anchor the Rydia better, So I think they're both doing very good things so far, and I'm very interested to see how it plays out for both of them.
Well, we are going to see these Baron guards at the back attack spot, which is pretty good. I mean, she does have an hourglass to throw out there if she wants, but it looks like she's going to use that Gaia drum, and hopefully that'll do a pretty good chunk of their health here. I'm not entirely sure exactly how much that will be, relatively speaking, but it looks like it's going to be a good solid 700-ish on both. Might be a little bit of a sketchy fight from here, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, they only have about 1,500 health apiece, so it's not too bad. One of the other things we could have potentially seen was some swoon kills with an assassin dagger. Ultros actually deciding that hourglass is too valuable and resetting. She really wants to keep that hourglass now, knowing that the guards were not as bad as expected. So that's pretty heads up, honestly. Those hourglasses could come in handy for trap chests or even something like a Dark Imps at the King Queen Evelyn spot, where that's a super punchy spot, and with three of them, and then not splitting XP, or excuse me, not splitting attack power, excuse me, they can be really rude. So that hourglass may have better use later on. So I think that's very heads up by Ultros to do that.
Definitely. I love those moments where you see someone sort of learning how hard a boss can be at a location sort of in real time and just making that adjustment on it. It's always really interesting to see, and it's really a good sort of testament to how much all of our players are improving just every single time they're in one of these races too.
Yeah, absolutely. And looks like we see Karan picking up 10 Cure 3s. That's definitely going to be some helpful healing for the team, as Rosa not going to have Cure 3 by the time she gets to the hook route to be, put into action. Will only have Cure 2. So I like that as a backup healing strategy. A little concerned that both crystal armors got sold though, so that takes a lot of potential defense off the table for Cecil cover strats. Hopefully there will still be other armor that allows, Cecil to do Cecil things, or a big sword making it irrelevant. But that crystal armor could be very handy.
Definitely waiting here now to see what this key item is going to be on top of Mount Ordeals, and that is the tower key. So that is going to be the part of objective number 3 that we were looking for. So now, once we get that hook, all we really need for go mode at that point will be either the twin harp or the rat tail, because that will be 4 out of 5 objectives. Of course, we started with the pass, so this could turn into a bit of a fast seed as long as our runners find that hook fairly early on. And this Leviathan at Fabul looks like a pretty good possibility for a place for it to be.
Yeah, it's either going to be through Leviathan here at Fabul, through Baron Inn, or through a cheeky, sneaky Demist to somewhere. Those would be our 3 options currently. I know I'm hoping for Zot 1 Demist, because that's just a rite of passage in free enterprise, and everyone should experience it.
Waiting here to see what the Fabul key item is, and I just want to note that do learned Medio pop-up on Ultra's professional side was amazing, and I'm always very happy when these sorts of custom names lead to weird little text boxes like that. Always good to see. Only a cat claw over from Fabul here. I believe that I did see Yang as the free character on Mount Ordeals, but I gotta think that neither of our runners are gonna be that interested in a Yang in the seed.
Well, Yang could be a potential second Zerker. In Ultros' side, I don't know if she has checked Hobbs yet. I don't know that she knows there's a Cecil. So a Yang could be an attractive second Zerker in Ultros' situation right now.
Also seeing that Sylph here for sale and Agard over on Ultros' side, so if either of our runners want to try and make that Rydia more useful, obviously on Ultros' side where she's using Rydia as an anchor, not going to bother picking up that Sylph, but where Karant's been leveling her a bit, maybe when he goes there, we'll see him pick that up. That'd be a nice little bonus for that Rydia to get going a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Iridia with enough armor, normally it would require like a rune ring, a glass hat, a black shirt or sork robe. If you can back row Iridia with a bunch of armor, maybe a tiara as well instead of a glass hat, and just cast Sylph over and over, a lot of the times Viridia can actually solo hook routes just by using the Sylph glitch, using the Sylph summon, and simply out healing any of the damage a boss can deal. So I'm interested if we end up in some sort of really weird solo Rydia situation. Uh, Speaking from experience, they're no fun, but they're doable for rune hook routes.
Definitely, and Ultra's now on her way to this, well, finding a free sylph in a pot in Baron Inn, first of all, as well as a Porum behind the door, but also finding silk webs for sale in the shops, which could be extremely useful when either of our runners go to actually tackle that hook route. We've seen the one silk web available in a treasure chest, but being able to grab extra ones so you can make sure you're throwing out a silk web on both of those hook route fights and any other ones that might give you trouble could be a pretty big advantage here.
Definitely. And a couple things of note. Ultros not killing off Rydia here. So maybe out of the anchoring plan, depending how this goes. Maybe because of that Sylph summon find. But also finding a Soma drop in a pot. Oh, well, there goes Rydia. So the anchoring plan is still on. But finding a Soma drop in a pot means Tella can actually cast Meteor now. Another major development. That's an Evil Wall. That means that Evil Wall's not on the hook route. That also means that these Dark Imps that we see here are not on the hook route. To me, knowing that you have a forced hook route and seeing those two bosses out, that's pretty comforting. What won't be comforting is getting punched in the face repeatedly by these three buggers because they hit pretty darn hard here. But very heads up using the Hourglass. I think this is really where you want to use that Hourglass.
Yeah, Dark Imps are definitely, to me, that one free fight that really puts the quotation marks around the word free. Because the moment you think that you're gonna just sail through this, they start punching and everyone falls over, and you're just like, oh, I actually need to take this fight seriously now. But Ultros, now that she has that stop out, very easy to get through this fight, and we'll see her clean this up pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And that Kane already hitting for almost 800 damage a swing berserk. Just going ham on these Dark Imps. They are having a bad day.
Stardust Rod, always good either way here.
Oh yeah, that Stardust Rod for Tella, like I said early on, that is such a huge pickup. There is the hook, so cheeky Demist off the table for at least the hook portion. Uh, finding it and having it gating it in a strange location. Cheeky Demist could still gate something else, but Ultros also opting to keep Edward over Porum. Sticking to the Edward plan, maybe pandering to the Seed Roller, excuse me, the Pink Puff Master herself, I should say, by keeping that Edward around.
It's definitely a possibility. It's also just possible she's decided, this dancing dagger is still doing a lot of work. Maybe thinking, I'm going to do a level grind later. If I decide I need another white mage for whatever reason, I can slingshot that for him. It's not a big problem. So that might be going through her mind a little bit too, that just while Porum might be better long term, right now she might not necessarily be offering a whole bunch of improvement over that Edward.
Definitely makes sense. We may see that change very shortly, though. I just have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to have our second Eddie going away in favor of a certain Cecil. We shall see, though. Perhaps we will be proven wrong on this, but that is the move I would make anyway. Oh, the Rydia takes a leave of absence here, keeping the Edward. So now I'm very curious on the anchor plan for Ultros.
This to me reads either hoping for a cursed ring to put on that Tella, or possibly thinking, I don't need an anchor right at this very moment. I still got a couple things I'm going to go do first, and I can go pick that Rydia back up afterwards. So that's the possibility in my brain there, that she might be thinking, I just don't need this Rydia anchor right now, and I can always get it back. And with no dupes onto, you can't just like get another Edward to replace that Edward, even though, again, this is an Oscar curated seed. I would not be surprised if every character from here on out is another Edward. But you can't, once the genie is out of the bottle, so to speak, with Edward's agility, you can't get it back down. So might just be thinking, I'll just have 5 for whatever I'm going to do next.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And probably don't need an anchor for the rest of the overworld. The team is going to be more than strong enough, and then kind of figure it out later. So it'll be interesting to see, again, how it all progresses. The hook route and what's on it is the $1,000,000 question. We still have some things like Dark Knight Cecil hanging out that could be a problem at the King Queen Evelyn spot. We have things like, Kainatsu. We have things like Ogopogo. A couple of options out there where keeping that varying party composition alive could be very good for our runners. We see headbands and wizard shirts. Wizard shirts, oddly strong for equipment for the mages floating around in this party. Might be something worth considering so they don't get punched as hard.
I believe a Stardust Strut got you sold, but I believe they've also found 2 at this point in time, so not gonna be that much of an issue for them, I would imagine. Probably just wanting the money, and I feel like Ultros is kind of, at this point, holding out for something in shops that will help a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think at this point she's running out of shops, and at some point we'll have to decide on where the next step is from here. And it's the question of, is she going to just try and go down that hook route, at very least see the character first, or is she going to go tackle those trap chests first?
Yeah, that was going to be one of the points I was going to suggest, is tackling this Dwarf Castle as soon as possible. And we do see the crystal armor going on Cecil right away, gearing him up for as much defense as possible. I do love this play, putting him in the back row, letting him do what a paladin is canonically supposed to do, protect everyone else. But we'll see if there's a nice shiny sword available. The other thing shopping-wise that I think Ultros was looking for was a cursed ring. I don't know if our runners have gone to Kaipo or Silvera. I think those are the 2 shops that we have not located anything in yet. I don't think either runner stopped there. So a curse ring could also have been on the menu for Ultros. One of the interesting things about Tella in particular is he's not going to be more than like 10 or 11 agility tops, even by clearing all the trap chests. So you can still use Tella as an anchor while getting him levels and having him be active. And that may be what Ultros is just going to go with here.
Definitely. And meanwhile, over on Karant's side, we are going to see him buying the Sylph. Did not find the Sylph in the Baron Inn, but either way, starting his preparations for this hook route. And it does look like Ultros is going to go check that character first, which is a potentially interesting play because it kind of gives you double knowledge. First of all, the knowledge of, all right, this is what my options are as far as character goes, but also knowing who the boss is at that Rubicon spot could be quite valuable as well, especially if it's not a Sparkle. If it's a Sparkle, then yeah, you're probably thinking it's Ogopogo.
Oh, interesting. Ultros was doing shop checks, and now she is probably going to go do either some looting or some Evelyn chests. But I think wanted to make sure that she saved the Bacchus wine purchase and a little bit of shopping that she did before running down here. May very well see the character, may very well see the boss, and then reset back to that save after the little bit of shopping there. The Ogre Axe, really nice actually to take on all of the Stalemen, all of the Mad Ogres. Pretty big pickup there, randomly just laying around.
And it looks like she does decide to put that on her cane as well. Looked like she was going to put it on the Cecil for a moment, changed her mind, deciding to go down that road. Also finding a Stardust in a chest, which, another cast of Stardust, always good. But the question on my mind is, finding those Bacchus wines and shops, does that change the way that you approach things at this point? Because now the value of having extra white mages goes down. If you were planning on maybe slingshotting that Porum later, do you really still want that? Because really the value of that is kind of in Blink and Berserk, because I doubt we would necessarily slingshot her up to white. So that's the big question, is what does that do to your planning at this point?
I don't think it does a ton at this very moment. I think it does a ton in roughly about 10 to 15 minutes, depending when our runners start fighting the big bad boss who's on the hook route. But I don't really think there's a particular issue until that point. We do see when cover strats go wrong, this is the chest in the game that causes the most unintended wipes. These Stalemen are so rude, but that Ogre Axe paying out in spades there. And Ultros Professional able to get through, and oh hey, why go to Eblan Castle when you can just get a big ol' shiny from the Staleman chest? That is an Excalibur, y'all.
That is removing the temptation to even bother going back to the Eblan trap chest for me at this point. The only real big thing would be a Crystal Sword, and honestly, going back for a Crystal Sword, I feel like you're not even going to make up the time you'd spend going through all those chests at this point.
It would definitely be an advantage. Like, if I were running a curated seed, I would have done Eblan Castle first. So anyone who made the play that Ultros would do is going to make up, I think, a lot of time over the average runner here. I think that doing Eblan Castle, you're going to get a ton of good loot. The loot tiering is so amazing in Eblan Castle. However, it is a time investment. By the time you're done with all 3 trap chests, you're probably talking 7 to 8 minutes. Between the looting, which is about 3 minutes, and the trap chests, it's a pretty hefty time investment. And if you can just find that nice shiny stick, then you don't have to worry too much about it. And there is that sparkle. I think we both have an idea of what this sparkle is.
Yes, and my guess is that it will be a wyvern.
It can't. My guess is it's not going to be a wyvern. Knowing Asuka, it's either going to be Ogopogo or Plague. 1, because she hates Plague, and 2, because Ogopogo on the hook route is a bit of a reputation thing for Asuka, going back to a certain seed with a certain flurry and a certain Dia a couple tournaments ago. That was an adventure and a half on that hook route. Our runners are much better prepared this time than poor Flurry and Dia were, where they had to kill an Ogopogo with a bunch of viruses reflected, or Yang as their only berserker. This team slightly better set up if it is Ogopogo.
Absolutely, and Ultra's still doing looting at this point in time. Gonna find this Mad Ogre's chest and get through that, so we'll see if that ends up dropping something else. I believe I just also saw another Stardust Rod over on her side, so If you want to replace your entire party with mages, you could do that at this point.
Or we could just have Tello wield 3 of them. No, we can't do that? I tried.
I think Omnidextrous is this week's community race flag, not the Puff flag, unfortunately. So if you want to see Tello wielding multiple Stardust Rods, you're going to have to come back tomorrow night for that.
We do see Ultros Professional is going through and putting on the cover strategy show here. Going to try to land a size on the ogres as well, which will stop them from being super punchy. One of the interesting things going on here for Ultros and why that front row Kayn is only taking 50 damage or less, Kayn has an Aegis Shield on right now, which means that Kayn has mage defense. And Mad Ogres are mages. Because why not? Also an Avenger for Courant. So now we know that there's Excal and Avenger available. Bacchus be darned, don't even need them.
The real question, though, is once Courant is through all of these Eblan Castle checks, does he do as thorough of a job going through all those Eblan Cave checks, or does he do what we see a lot of runners do and find the trap chest, memorize which one it is, reset, and then grab everything else. Because there is a chance you could just dodge the X-Cal by making what would be a good play if it weren't an X-Cal in that chest.
Yeah, there's also the chance that this chest or the next one could just have a shiny stick for Cecil and not have to worry about it. There's a glass hat for Ultra's Professional. That's Cecil. If you wanted him to be tanky, holy moly, you could have crystal armor, you could have a glass hat. He would never take damage. I do love putting it on Rosa, though. I think that is A+ for Ultras to put that glass hat on Rosa. Make sure your primary white mage is able to keep everyone else alive. I think that is super heads up from Ultras.
Yeah, especially if you're going to be doing those cover strats, if you end up doing the blink cover strats, as long as Rosa gets there in time, which I don't think she has the experience for quite yet. But if that ends up being on the table later, then just making sure that she can keep that blink up on Cecil no matter what, and if she happens to be at a little bit higher of an HP value at the start of the fight, can still get that rolling before anything else happens.
Definitely. And looks like we also get a ribbon on Karant's side. So Avenger, ribbon, two pretty nice pieces of loot so far, an Excalibur and a glass hat. So we have one trap chest left that we don't know about, and the Flame Dog chest if anyone really wanted to play ball in the Tower of Zot, but I don't think we're getting that out of either of our runners. But this is turning into a fairly accessible hook route, all things considered. If that Sparkle is either Plague or Ogopogo, both of them are air quotes weak to Berserk, meaning you kind of just punch them in the face until they can't be punched anymore and the fight ends. But one of the moments of truth here, who is this? Oh, that's Antlion. That's a fun boss with an Avenger, and by fun, I mean it's probably not the right F word to use, but we can't say any of the other ones on stream.
Yeah, that could be a bit of a problem once Karant gets there. I think Ultra is definitely getting the little bit better end of this here, although she is going to end up taking a white here because Antlion at this spot still hitting quite hard. But I think she might be in a bit better of a spot just because she's not relying as hard on that instant Berserk Avenger to deal damage right now.
Well, one thing Ultros is going to need to do is get that glass helm on Cecil here and take it for, well, there's a random white spear, convenient, but take that glass hat and put it on Cecil. So then you have glass hat, crystal armor, and go from there. This is also where having a Rydia as an anchor at 4 agility would set everyone else to relative agility 1, instead of the Tella, which is going to set the party to relative agility 2 or 3, with Antlion still being relative agility 1. Simple math on stream, that just means Antlion's going to take more turns compared to what our runners' characters are going to be able to take.
And meanwhile, over on Karant's side, we've seen that third trap chest, and it's a white spear for the Cane, which I don't think that helps. Isn't Antlion, as Mr. Busdragger has pointed out in chat, one of those early game bosses that is strong against Holy for no reason?
Nope. Antlion is not strong nor weak against anything. He just counters, or Antlion just counters against different things. The early game bosses that are weak to stuff are things like Octomam, which is weak to the Black Sword, the Holy element. Excuse me, the Dark element, and absorbs Holy. And then Mom Bomb, who is weak to the Black Sword, but not weak to Holy. So Antlion just is excluded from that pool altogether, is not strong nor weak against anything.
Ultras here for run number 2 against this Antlion now. Has everyone in the low house, sending that Cane up before the jumps right now. Going to drop that Gaia drum as well. I think she's in pretty good shape, although that Cecil is still taking a lot of damage.
Was in a lot better shape until getting punched in the back row with crystal armor on for almost 500 damage. But should be able to get through this. I will say Karant, by virtue of having those extra levels, will have a lot easier time level-wise with this fight. However, not having the crystal armor is going to be a bit of a predicament on Karan's side. So it'll be interesting, but I think this jump from Kane should finish this fight off. And there it is, Ultros through Antlion. Very well done.
Very, very well, only taking the 2 tries, and honestly, that was more because she just sort of ran in, hadn't quite healed up for that first try, might have been able to get it had she, known what the boss was ahead of time.
Yeah.
And now has to try and figure out what this sparkle is and how she's going to get past it. Very smartly going to go back and drop a save, and we're about to have the big question of who is Sparkle answered.
Yeah, I think the who is Sparkle question, I mean, we always see Asuka in chat saying 2 words, and those 2 words are fight, comma, Ogo. So I'm just going to chant on Asuka's behalf, fight, comma, Ogo.
No, I'm still hoping for Plague.
We shall see. Karan's making his way down. Oh, no comma, my apologies. But it does look like we have the nopiest of noodles. And Ogo we must fight.
So how do you get through this fight if you're in Ultros' situation? I think she's better set up because of that cover strat at this point, but there's still going to be a few wrinkles here.
This is where having double blink would be huge. Ooh, changing rows here is interesting. If the blinks get up on the Zerkers, this is fine, but I am very concerned about this Cecil now perishing because of getting attacked there. This is a little bit sketchy on Ultros' side. I do like keeping the Zerkers in the back row as long as the back row glitches on, but I think she's going to be okay. Kane is going to dodge the cure because he was in the air, but that'll be fine. Dancing Dagger, fun fact, don't use it against Ogopogo. Causes a counter blaze, not great for your health because it's treated as magic. Ultros finding that out and saying, oh, that wasn't what I wanted. Let's not do that. And this is how you learn.
Now, a question I would have is Karant set up with that Avenger and being able to really get that damage out a little bit quicker through not needing to berserk the Cecil, being able to just raise him back up and he just starts swinging? Might he have a little bit of an advantage on the Ogopogo side of this over what Ultros' setup is with that cover strat setup?
Well, Karant has the benefit of having Blink already on the Rosa. So, and I don't know if Ultros does or not. The Rosa might be slightly too low level-wise. But having the accessibility of exactly like a Tella and a Cecil or a Rosa and a Cecil, he will be fine in exactly that Ogo fight if he can get everyone going. You really want a second Zerker for that Kane. You really don't want Rosa in the middle for either of these fights. You want your slowest character in the middle. So this is also one of those things that agility-wise, we're going to see a very fast Antlion over on Karan's side. Meanwhile, on Ultros' side, I think we're going to start getting some blinks, maybe some cures. Unfortunately, that Rosa went down, which makes this very awkward. But we do see a lot of damage coming out here.
Yeah, it does look like she's going to use a life potion on that Rosa with Edward. Might be worth just kind of sacrificing Edward a bit here to get Rosa up and going so that she can start helping out in whatever way she's able to. I don't think that she has Blink. I'm pretty sure I did not see it in her spell list last time, but if she could just get some healing going for those big waves, then we can get those blinks up through Tella if we have to.
Yeah, I think this is, kind of a DPS race now. This is the classic, can we kill it before it kills us? And that might be a berserk going out on Rosa, just saying, healing be darned, my way through this is just dealing damage. No, it was a cure 2 on Rosa. And then Rosa gets bopped and falls over. So not exactly what you want here. And Edward hiding also meant that Tella was more apt to being knocked down, but that damage comes out and Ultros just berserks straight on through Ogopogo. Uh, you know, waves and difficulty be darned. Very well done by Ultros Profession.
Yeah, that was very good sort of heads up play on her part with that Rosa being down basically the entire fight and just realizing, you know what? I just have the damage for this. So, really, really good awareness of what she's capable of, how strong that Ogo is there to be able to do that at that point.
Yeah, now we get to see as well what's on the top of the tower. Oh, no tower peak. Feels bad. I always like to see what's on the top of the tower. Then you get to run up there and go fight it. But that's okay. We have Karant who got through the Antlion and is going to also be attempting to get through said Ogopogo now. Not going to be quite as strong and not going to be quite as well anchored with that Rosa in the middle. So we'll see if there's enough actions that Karant can get off and get through this smoothly. Down goes Cecil right away. That is not the start that you want. And that is the downside of having the Zerkers in the front row. Uh, just takes so much damage from those hits. Sylph is going to be great here for healing, but again, unfortunately, Kane goes down. Tella is down. It's going to be a bit rough and a bit ragged for Karan here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, those sylphs will trigger Blaze, which will kind of have a little bit of a blunting effect on how much healing he's able to actually get out. I think that he can get through this, but it might not be getting through this on this attempt, and I think that the bit of an issue he's running into here is just this Ogo is way too fast for him to fully deal with unless he can get those sylphs out perfectly each time.
Yeah, if he can keep getting the sylphs out and doing 1500 or so, that's fine. It's going to out heal the blazes, which do 25% health. But the issue happens on the next wave, because the next wave is going to be 50% to everyone. And right now, that would kill off both Kane and Rosa. And I believe now we are just left with Iridia and Cecil. And that is not great. We are now just left with Iridia, who, again, if she has the right equipment, she can solo Ogopogo.
I do not feel like she has that right equipment this time, unfortunately, but we'll see. Yeah, there's the punch and there's the reset.
Yeah, so I think that for Karan to have success here, that Tella has to go in the middle. Battle speed coming down is great, but you just want your slowest character in the middle to make it so that the rest of your party members are going faster compared to the boss. So that is something to keep in mind from an anchoring perspective, that on fast spots, and this spot I believe has 38 agility, you want to have someone slow in the middle and just let the rest of your party try to be as fast as the boss as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the things that sometimes is a little bit difficult for the new runners. There's a Demist at Leviathan. Speaking of things that are difficult for new runners. But
I mean, that's not difficult. That just takes until tomorrow to finish.
But just to really quickly go back, I feel like there's almost a tendency sometimes to look at the agility math and sort of think this is a bit difficult, but you can always just use the when in doubt, just put the slow person here and it'll work roughly the same even if the numbers don't line up exactly sort of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those worst case scenarios. I'm not anchored correctly for some bosses, but it'll work out perfectly for others. Also, a little rough here when you cast Lightning on Ogopogo, because Ogopogo is a jerk, counters with Weak. So Leviathan coming out from Rydia, which is great, going to trigger a Blaze, and down goes Rydia. So just 3 characters left on Karant's side again. Kind of the unfortunate part of just this fight is that Ogo is very mean to magic things.
think that's kind of a big question at this point in time is which do you prefer, the healing off of the Sylph or the much higher damage off of the Leviathan at this point? Because that's going to kind of cut in half how much damage Rydia needs to, or how many turns Rydia is going to need to get this fight down.
Yeah, I would want Rydia in this case to be throwing Cure 3s or Life Potions. I don't think I would have her do much of anything else because you have a stack of Cure 3s. It looks like we are getting another Sylph cast though, so still going to go with this this route. Tella, not quite taking nap, going to be Berserking Kane here. Maybe we can get two Zerkers going, but I have a feeling that this Kane is going to perish on the next big wave that comes out, because I think that's a double that's coming up.
Definitely, I think Tella's in the danger zone here too, so that's going to be not great. They're going to knock 2 more back down, and he's a good ways into this fight, so we might still be able to pull this off at this point, but keeps having these little setbacks here and there, but I believe he can get around them.
Oh. Cecil going down while the cure is queued up. Not great. No blink on Rosa, which makes this very awkward as well.
I'm just trying to mentally estimate how much damage he's already put out onto this Ogopogo, and I just don't think it's going to be enough, especially with Rydia going down there. I think we're about to see another reset here.
Yeah, I think that big wave there, that's going to knock Cecil back down. And that is the reset from Courant. So we'll see what adjustments Courant makes. I think he has the tools to do this. Just might need to rearrange some things. Going to use a Siren here, which is going to pull a green dragon egg, not a yellow egg. So this is going to give, I want to say 2,800 XP, somewhere around there. Not the 34,000 that a yellow dragon is going to give you. So not super great for XP. The Sirens down here really don't do much, unfortunately. It might actually be 4,800, but either way, it's not a ton. Meanwhile, we see Ultros has gone through and is back in Fabul getting their Cat Claw. And I did not see, did we get a Sheila 1 turn in?
Not yet. I believe they decided to do the Fabul gauntlet check first and then go up to check Sheila 1. And let's see what it is here. She does her little spin, turns around, and hands over a Magma Key. So, bit of a zonk there.
That's nice. Sheila had the Magma Key all along, just refusing to give it to the runners. Just a little bit of a tease there.
It's like a true RPG side quest character. It gives you what you need after you finish their long obtuse side quest to go the other way around. It's like, now you can go underground anytime you want. It's like, I've already gone down this entire hook route with the hovercraft and everything. I don't need this anymore.
But it makes a nice, a little bit of dialogue when you drop the Magma Key in the well when it's already finished.
It does also make the wonderful falling sound effect, which is also very important at a point in time.
True. We do see Ultros back underground going to take on the entirety of the tower. Makes a lot of sense. Has the tower key. It's an objective. Did not peek the boss of the tower, and maybe part of that was quite simply she knows she's going there anyway, so why take the time?
Absolutely. And the question is, do you, in this case, just go straight into this cannon room, which looks like she's doing, or do you go up and deal with the top of tower first, since this is kind of a gimme? But this is another sparkle. What sparkle is it today?
That's less of a gimme than you expected. Okay, well, Wyvern trying to gradually petrify the party. Not today, Wyvern, not today.
It was an attempt that was made here. It's kind of one of the, it's like portion Medusa sort of thing here. Like, I was not ready for this. You get like 1 eye worth of gaze here.
It would have been more fun if it was Beak and it, hit the entire party and tried to petrify them all. Although our runners, I think, well, at least Karan has the ribbon. I don't think Ultros does. But that would have been fun.
I want to say that Ultros actually found a ribbon from a different source than Karant did and has her own ribbon. I don't remember where she found it, but I'm pretty sure that she has one. Either that, or I was so excited by the glass hat that I assumed that the ribbon is the only other hat I would have cared about. I think this might be a gauntlet.
I hope the gauntlet's on the moon and it gates the rat tail, which has the harp behind it. I hope this is Water Hag. Ah. Still an annoying gauntlet.
I get the feeling that this is either nothing or the harp at this point in time. It's fun trying to metagame this seed based off of vague hints that there are other little bits of problems later on down the line.
I mean, my assumption is Demist has something.
I think the question is, does Demist have like heart that leads to rat tail, or does Demist have one and the other one is hidden down some sort of arcane chain of checks that you would never want to do willingly unless you thought it was your only option?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that this could go still, of course, but I know that you talked about metagaming the seed. I would metagame the seed to the point where I would go do that Demist fight as soon as humanly possible, which now is probably not that time, to be honest, because with a white spear and Demist being wholly resistant, and an Excalibur and Demist still being wholly resistant, that fight would take again until tomorrow.
Yeah, and as fun as that would be, just keeping on this going with this particular race until we've got the next restream tomorrow night for the community race, I'm not entirely sure that everyone would stick with us for that entire point in time.
Yeah, it would be an adventure, but I don't know it's one that the runners nor the people in chat would want to partake in.
Be a little bit less like a Lord of the Rings trilogy length of grand adventure and more of those first 2 episodes of the last season of Game of Thrones where nothing happened except a bunch of dialogue, which was kind of nice, but also you wanted them to fight the zombies.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the few humans left on the planet who has never seen an episode of Game of Thrones, so I'm going to leave that one to you.
I assure you, the joke probably doesn't land, but it was a good attempt. Karan has gotten through this hook route with just persistence at this point, so very good on him figuring out that he did have a way around it just with those levels. Obviously, maybe not the most optimal use of those sirens versus other things, but definitely a valid use of them to get through this check here.
Yeah, getting through is important. This gauntlet trolling Ultros a little bit. One of the weird things that happens with this fight as well is that once you're down to 1 Chimera, it's going to use Blaze, and it's going to wipe out everyone who's attempting to be cover stratted here. So this is going to be a little awkward now for Ultros. Well, Eddie is alive. Cecil is alive, but Kane and Rosa are down. So kind of a little bit of a nightmare fuel situation here, but I think Ultros should still be fine.
That's a package. I don't think there's a character left in the seat that you sit through a package for. I don't think even an Edge at this point.
The only one you'd consider would be Fusoya for exactly Nuke. and that would just be so you can basically go through and make that demist faster. But other than that, I don't think there'd be a single character, if you can even get Fu on this. I think he is restricted. I don't think he's banned from the flag set. So if it were exactly Fu, I'd consider it, but no one else.
You are correct. I did misread the restricted characters as available characters. And for those of you who are not familiar with the current beta branch of the flags, to understand the confusion there, in the beta branch of the flags, you can specify what characters are restricted. Normally, Edge and Fusoya can't show up in a seed unless they're gated behind something or the starting characters. But you can now change the pool of characters that are stuck behind whatever gates you want to put them behind with that flag as well. And only Fusoya was restricted, so we could have theoretically just found an edge in one of those free spots. We didn't, but it was a possibility here.
Yeah, and the beta branch flags, they definitely throw a twist into things, but it's a very good twist. And speaking of twists and turns and good things, we're going to get some job dwarfage here, I think. Animal scientist. Okay, I'm hoping that's the good kind of animal scientist and not like the pharmaceutical company animal scientist. We're going to go with the good animal scientist. It's like helping to solve animal cancer and stuff like that.
I am going to go with the third option, which is that he is a scientist that is actually a tiger in a dwarf costume pretending to be a regular dwarf.
Oh, I like that. That's a very good option. So kind of some sort of like anthropomorphic scientist, running around. I like that. Maybe like an anamorph.
Exactly. It's the Animorphs lore here. Gotta be careful because you need to leave him alone, because if he stays like that too long, he's gonna get stuck that way, and that's just gonna be unfortunate for everyone.
Well, it looks like we have Ultros going through and landing on the Peninsula of Power. So we might be getting some eggs cracked here and some omelets made. 3 sirens in the bank means that you're looking at roughly 102,000 XP. As long as that Tela is knocked off, that'll make a couple of party members relative agility 1, I believe. For sure, Kane should be, but maybe everyone else will at least be relative agility 2. We'll see if that Tela gets knocked off, though.
Karant did a quick check on that Demist, and I've noticed something very, very unfortunate that I believe he just noticed as well, which is that Cecil has the Avenger equipped, and he does not have another sword for that Cecil to wield right now. So either he has to heal through all of those, and that is going to be the longest Demist fight that we've ever experienced, or he has to go find another weapon that he can pop on there. Guess the Assassin Dagger, I think, can be equipped by Cecil, but it's not great. It actually does have a Rune Axe now, so does have something to deal with that with.
Yeah, this still is going to be a 12 years war kind of situation, though, where if Karant, decides to take this fight, yes, it could possibly just place him right into go mode. Having completed objectives 1 and 5, having objective 3 on the table for completion. This would be that metagame play. And it's one of those situations where Karant is saying, well, I did not get cleanly through that hook route. I need to do something to try to win this race or place highly. And this might be that something. But this fight is not starting out great. That was a back road Rosa taking 2,300. A front road Cecil taking 2,900. Oh, by the way, this is tied for the punchiest spot in the game. In case you needed a reminder after seeing those numbers.
Yeah, and I gotta say, this might be another thing where his agility situation might be causing him problems, because that was very fast, and he's only had time to throw 1 life potion and get 1 blink out during the mist phase, and kind of gotta hope that basically all those hits go on to Riddy. It does take the reset here.
Yeah, I think it's a very ambitious play. But I think without proper agility, it's it's not really in the cards at this point for Karant. We do see Ultras heading back down into the Fey March after doing a couple Sirens, so we might be getting another attempt here on that Demist, just from the runner on the right of your screen, Ultras Professional, instead of the runner on your left, Karant. And speaking of both of those runners, make sure you do give them a follow. They have put on a heck of a show for you, both getting through an Ogopogo hook route with an Antlion for a little bit of spice at the King Queen Eblin spot. So great job to them, putting on the show, volunteering for tribute. I think that's a Game of Thrones thing, right? Volunteering for tribute? I don't know. It's some sort of sci-fi thing.
That's Hunger Games or something.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
I've never
There
seen
you go.
Hunger Games, so I'm just sort of guessing because it's like one of the few pop culture things I haven't seen there. But yes, go on.
and also the behind the scenes folks, always deserving of praise, admiration, and love. Neobari on the restream, doing great work bringing the broadcast to you. Tybalt pressing the buttons. Asuka behind the scenes again as the Puff Master Extraordinaire, and Nth joining me in the booth as the co-commentator du jour. Thank you again, Nth, for keeping me on my toes and keeping me straight here while this fantastic race goes on.
Thank you to you as well. Always great to get a good dose of knowledge because I always learn so much when I'm commentating with you, honestly. And that's only partially because I just sort of constantly ask questions to try and get more out of you.
Hey, I mean, I was, in the same situation as the Puffs a year and a half ago, and I had the pleasure of learning this game from folks like Invenerable, folks like, Moonblaze Wolf, Baka Shinobi, Rivers McCown, Woo Bear, Dr. Cossack, like some of the folks who have been around for 2, 3, 4 years since this randomizer started. And it wouldn't be right to take that information and not pass it along. So whether it be you, whether it be Puffs, whomever it may be, the information is powerful and it should be divulged and should be used by the masses for good, not evil.
Yeah. And real quick, also, while we're giving shout outs, I want to give a shout out, of course, also to Flurry14, who I believe assisted with coming up with the flags for this week as well. So beyond just the particular seed of this, we also have him to thank for this, so shout outs to him too for all the help with this particular wonderful week, because this has been quite fun to watch as Ultras Professional seems to be finding her way around this Demist fight at this point.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things, doable but not fun. But I think in Ultras' shoes, she has Dwarf Castle as the only other check at this point, if I'm not mistaken. So probably figuring, based on the pre-race commentary, that this is the play.
Yeah, I think the only other option at this point would be doing a good old Doctor Dialogue at the Queen spot today, but that's no fun either. And it's Definitely not because it's hard, it's just because it's boring.
Oh, and a quick thing, another bit of little advice for everyone. When you are using Cecil for cover strats, if you parry with him, he will no longer cover anyone unless the manual cover command has been enacted. So that is another thing, just to keep in mind, that if you break that cover by parrying, Cecil will not pick up those who he wants to pick up. So a little interesting little factoid there also. We now have Kane running wild, not able to be knocked down by Rosa here. Looks like we're going to have Cecil do the work here, knocking down that Kane. The other application here to stop the Berserk would be a Silver Staff used as an item from a White Mage. That would be a good way to stop a Kane in his tracks as well. So a couple ways to manage this, but Kane is making it very difficult right now.
Absolutely. I think if she can just land one hit on that Kane, it will be fine, but Kane has learned how to dodge every attack suddenly, It's honestly quite impressive.
Yeah, Kane is, shall we say, betraying the party, and Ultras decides to take a reset there. What's interesting is she would have been quite a distance through that fight. And one of the parts about the Demist fight is even if you're Zerked, you're still only getting 2 actions in per one of Demist. So you're probably looking at about 10, maybe 14 swings tops before that Cold Mist phase ends. It's actually not all that much time with a single Zerker. So I think that that's an experience thing that watching this back Ultros can learn from, is that Demist fight there was still very accessible, very doable. It wasn't locked out and would have transitioned back to the regular Demist phase.
Yeah, it's one of those experience things that you don't really think about. Although you might have to take another reset here with Cecil just falling over immediately. Although only one more attack is going to take the reset anyways.
Yeah, that was just bad luck there. That Cecil got punched for a lot of damage twice. No low rolls, only high rolls on that go. But we do see Karant on fight number 5 of the Gauntlet here, about to get blazed by the Chimera here, unless he is able to off it. Probably takes out Tella and no one else. But we have a lot of blazes coming out very quickly now. And I really hope for Karant's sake he's able to get through this. There we go, good. That would have been tragic to wipe on fight 5 of that gauntlet. That would have been a lot of time, and we did not want to see that for Karant's sake.
Absolutely, I was just sort of holding my breath there towards the end, like, this is not looking particularly solid, but thankfully does manage to get that last hit in. And I think Karant is probably at the point where he's past the biggest of his worries so far. As long as he can just sort of like keep going and keep plugging away at the seed, he'll be fine from here on out, I would imagine. And yeah, that's one of those things I want to note that I've always appreciated about Karant, because he's been around the community for a while, and one thing I noticed is he never gives up at all in any way, shape, or form, and just keeps plugging, and it's really wonderful to see because he's just so good at keeping going when things get a bit rough.
Yeah, definitely gets an A in persistence, if nothing else. So, job well done as always to Karant for persisting through some rather treacherous fights. Picking up that package from the top of tower, now picking up what I think was a Baron key, or will be shortly a Baron key from the Super Cannon room. So we will have key item parity very shortly on our runners, as well as objective parity, and it just comes down probably to who can get through this Demist faster. We know Ultros has a head start on it, but again, it's just a fight that takes a very long time.
And that's the thing, is just Demist at Leviathan is Demist at Leviathan, and it's just always going to be a slog. And a question on my mind is, does Karant go for it, or does he check other things? And what if one of those other things ends up paying off instead?
Well, I know that doing Demist as soon as possible is alluring because of the metagaming of the seed. But there's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that gorilla's name is Fusoya. If Fusoya is at Dwarf Castle, or if Dwarf Castle gives the Darkness Crystal, or if this Baron Key has a Fu, or that package has a Fu, anything that has a Fusoya means that Demist becomes, instead of long and difficult, free with Blink, because you just cast Nuke. And then you use an Ether 2, and after about 6 nukes, the fight ends. It's one of those things where, yes, you can go and you can tackle that Demist, and you can get through it, but is it the right play from a time perspective, even if the meta is correct? Does taking the time to do those extra checks to get a potential Fu outweigh the 10 minutes it's going to take to get through the fight? And that's a tough sell. That's a tough choice to make. But that's where our runners find themselves.
Yeah, and I think even then you can also make an argument that there's another layer to the meta-ing here, is this Demist may not be difficult, but from the perspective of if you're looking at trying to create a seed that's a good challenge without being too rough on everyone, would this be what you want to subject people to either? And there is a sort of possibility that this might be too far and it might just be a long chain thing. And Asuka is making fun of us in chat for trying to decode this at this point in time, but still.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think there's a wrong play for our runners, and I think that is, part of having an air quote spoiled seed. Obviously, we don't know what is spoiled. We don't know what boss is where. We don't know any of those things um, ahead of time. We don't know the key items. It's just all a big unknown. But you assume certain things when it's a curated seed, and it can make you play differently. So I think that's going to always have something like a Demist at Leviathan weigh heavy on someone's mind. Like I think it was Harumph a little while back had 2 or 3 straight seeds where Demist at Leviathan had the value that was needed to complete the seed. So these trends start to build up in the community, and you look at these things and you remember them, and you start to play off of those biases, right or wrong.
It's always been fascinating to me, the sort of unique mind games that just randomizers in general create like that, because it's not even just trying to meta what you think might be in the seed too, but there's also a chance where you could also make a point of, well, everyone else might go for that Demist Leviathan because they think it's the right play. If there is a chance it's not, maybe it's worth me going through everything else and getting the advantage that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility that the Demist has no value, and this is a giant trap. And if that's the case, chef's kiss, job well done. We do get to see who the Dwarf Castle character is. That is a Palom. Palom with Quake also would make the fight faster. Goodbye to Rydia. Picking up Palom instead of Rydia. That is an interesting choice.
It is very interesting, especially because I feel like it might almost not be. It's kind of hard to say, because it's a question of when do you want to do your level grinding too to get that Palom up to Quake. I know it's not very far buried, and you could probably get it with just a few sirens. I don't know the number personally, but you're kind of looking at a 4 key item grind there at best.
Yeah, if the Darkness Crystal were available, you could consider a D-Machine grind. You could buy sirens. I think they have to be on the moon at this point. It's quite interesting. Like, I would almost have considered leaning into full mage strats at that point and keeping both the Rydia and the Palom. Leviathan and Quake make Demist a lot easier than, say, keeping a White Spear Cane around. Maybe you then swap party members again and pick the Cane back up, or use the Cane instead of Atella. Like, there's a lot of ways to handle it, and I don't know that any one is wrong or any one is right. I just think it's a very good point of discussion to bring up.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a good answer too to the question that was just asked in chat, whether or not, ditching that adult radio with Leviathan for Palom is something that you would do in any given situation. The answer is yes and no. There's always going to be an upside and a downside, and I kind of feel like in this case they probably end up being pretty equal, if not slightly weighted towards the Palom here.
Yeah, I mean, I would have kept Iridia simply because Leviathan is stronger than Quake is as far as the spell power, but it wouldn't really make too much of a difference long term. I don't think you're looking to get to nuke levels anyway with this team, because you have a White Spear Cane, you have an Avenger. Like, to me, with Cecil and Kane, I'm looking to go Berserk, and I'm looking to go in the mid 40s. I don't really want to spend the extra 3 minutes grinding to get everyone to nuke levels, whether it be Palom or Rydia. That's one of the things about T Wildish that I'm a huge fan of. It's just give me a Rosa with like 2,000 health. Give me a couple Zergers and we'll call it a day. But if our runners are more comfortable getting to the low to mid 50s, then it makes sense taking the mages. It would just lead me to wonder why not take all the mages then? So again, that push and pull of runner styles, what they prefer, where their comfort level is, and that's always something that I know Alchemy is a huge proponent of it. You know, safety is a strategy. Over leveling is something that can be really good, and if that's what you're comfortable with, do it. And oh hey, by the way, there's a darkness crystal from the pan from Dwarf Castle.
Well, what we were saying about this Demist might not end up paying off is that has opened up another 6 key item checks actually, because K Summon is on. So that's another 6 possible places where you could find either that harp or that rat tail for go mode, as well as opening up a grind for Kurant, as you mentioned, the D Machine grind now possible for him. So that really does change the race a good deal, and doing that Dwarf Castle has either given Kurant a large advantage, if that's what the way forward is, or sent him down the rabbit hole of rabbit holes if he keeps chasing it.
Well, there's also a third option, and that is a Fusoya in his vanilla location, and then coming back and doing that demist with Nuke. And at that point, yes, you'd be behind Ultros, who did just get through that demist. So very well done to Ultros professional there. But that Fu would make up a lot of time. So we shall see what the reward is. That is a samurai bow. So boy oh boy is Ultros hoping that the back half of this demist has some value, or that is going to be the feels bad of feels bads.
Absolutely, and I just want to give a quick shout out that we have had our first finisher among our off-stream racers. We have several racers, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, also running the seed off-stream. And tonight's winner off stream will be Curios with a time of 1:17:09. So GG's to them and congratulations.
Yeah, GG's to Curios. Very well done. That would probably tell me, if I were metagaming this from a racer standpoint, that Demist suddenly feels really bad. And that the Dwarf Castle pan route may have been it. So we shall see, though. It's very hard to tell. It's only one person who has finished. But GG's to Curios, who is currently leading the Pink Puff Season 2, and only going to be extending that lead with today's result.
Yep, and every time I watch one of these Pink Puff races, and every time I've participated in a couple of them and lost handily, it makes me more excited for our next tournament when that comes up in the spring, because with some of these racers that we've got who are new in the community, I feel like with each passing tournament, it becomes more and more a wide open field just through the sheer amount of talented runners we have at this point. So definitely Curios will be one to watch when we get to that tournament season.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, every tournament that comes around, you have new runners who come out and have amazing performances. Going back to when I started in Free Enterprise, I kind of grew up in this game with Zoe and Pankraz. And I dare say that the three of us have become very good at this game, Pankraz especially. That was one tournament where you had a group of folks come out. 2 tournaments ago, you had folks like Martin Broadcloak and Rex Banner show up and start to do a lot of really good work. Last tournament, we had the first season of Pink Puffs come out. You had Cubs Rule, you had Rybon, you had Engie Dave, and a couple other folks as well. I think Mike also making top 64. So I think like 4 or 5 Puffs placed in the top 64 after the qualifiers last season as well. So every tournament, you're seeing new crops of runners come up, and the skill just gets better and better and better. Like, I dare say the Puffs from this league may have beaten the best runners a couple years ago. That's how much knowledge these Puffs have now.
Exactly. So remember to, of course, if you are new around the community, enjoy what you are seeing, please, first of all, give the randomizer a try. It's great fun, even if you're not trying to run competitively. I know I basically just occasionally load up a seed and just sort of mess around because honestly, it's fun to just explore sometimes. But also make sure you drop by our Discord. We always have races going on here and there, as well as, a very, very amazing community who are definitely willing to help anyone who wants to learn. So, again, if you're new here, you're enjoying what you're seeing, please drop by our Discord and join us. And maybe we'll see you here next time.
Yeah, everyone is always welcome. We don't bite much, uh, so feel free to hop on in that Discord, be one of the next puffs, or if you're just out there lurking and you're already really good and you want to make a splash. Not only do we have tournaments that we do and a Discord that we hang out in, we also have a ladder if you want to test your skills with a lot of really cool flag sets to practice on.
And I want to take a quick moment to note that we have, first of all, seen on Ultra's professional side that Luge fight is just an adamant rock, so nothing too exciting. But also, we have had a second place finisher off stream. It is going to be Funnel Cakes in second place with a time of 1:21:27, so GG's to them as well.
Yeah, GG's to Funnel Cakes. I believe Funnel Cakes is second or third right now. And oh boy, a lightsaber. So Demist gives a samurai bow and a lightsaber. That is heartbreaking for Ultras, to say the least. Made a fantastic play, but it did not pay off in this particular seed.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those rando gonna rando sort of things. I think she made what I would have dubbed good choices at that point in time. It's just tonight they have not ended up being the right choices. And we are about to see over on Karant's side if the right choices end up being just going to this barren castle here.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about going to this barren castle is it would put Karant at 9 key items, I believe. Well, there's the rat tail. That is going to be the last objective. That rat tail turning in to get the crystal, since it is 4 out of 5 required, will get Karant a 10th key item and go mode all at the same time. And so that is going to be Karant in go mode with possible sirens on the moon, ready to just grind and be done with this thing.
But also very important over on Ultra's professional side is she has opted to just go for this Baron check next, so she will not be too far behind either. And even though she spent that time on the Demist, she spent that time on Luge fights, still very much in this race that we have going on stream. So this is going to end up being pretty close here, depending on how much grinding our players decide to do today.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with Ultros is she built up so much equity time-wise by how efficiently she got through that hook route. I want to say she was underground 13 minutes before Karant was. Did the entire Fey March here. Is going to have to go back and do, I think, the Baron key. Excuse me, not the Baron key, the Dwarf Castle check to get Darkness ultimately from the Pan. But may also opt for an alternative kind of grind, or may opt for some lower level strategies, because there is a world here where you never do Dwarf Castle. You just get the Baron key, you grind either on trap chests or what sirens you find. No darkness, you use the pass, you go to Z, you maybe try some low level berserker strats. Like, I can see a world here where we might get a very cheeky Z strategy from Ultros if she knows how to do that. And that is a test for the Puffs, if they have that in their skill set.
This, either way, has turned into a very, very interesting setup of situations because it's just they're going to be forced in different directions no matter what. Karant has every grind available to him. he can very easily go up and do D Machine with a quick setup. He could very easily find Sirens on the Moon, do Gold Dragons, although he doesn't really have the Hourglasses for those that you might want. Could take them back underground, do the eggs down there. He's got all of the things. So now this has become really a sort of question of what do you do when you have every option available versus what do you do when you have no option available?
Yeah, and on Ultros' side, the option of picking up a Sid, taking a Rydia as an anchor, and then going through and doing 1200 strats also on the table. As Gale Swift brought up, Eddie strats are available, but Vampires and Star Veils and Cure 3s we also know are for sale. So in Ultros' case, the math would have to be there to say, well, is it worth the time of going through and doing, Dwarf Castle and whatever else leads to darkness? Or is it worth it to just buy all those things, prep my party for 1200 strats, reflect kill Zeromus, which will take somewhere between probably 10 and 12 minutes, given how the party composition would be? Or is it worth it to chase those key items? Again, it's a skill set thing. I don't know Ultros' comfortability with 1200 or Eddie strats, but that could also be an option for some of the puffs.
I don't know what I would do in this situation is the thing. But it looks like Karan's gonna go make some character changes here, and is he gonna take that Sid or is he looking for someone else here? Looks like he's looking for that Yang.
And says goodbye to Cecil. All right.
I'm going to be very interested in what the thought process is behind this one here. It seems like a bit of an odd choice, but I'm sure he has a reason for doing it.
Yeah. Setting up a D Machine grind. Maybe just saying that a slingshotted Yang will do more than whatever this Cecil will do and going hybrid. But looks like on Ultros' side, she is going to go the Dwarf Castle route while we get this, excuse me, D Machine set up from Courant. So going to be counting steps, or if you're like me, you forget what your count is, or you forget to ever start counting, and then you have to reset.
Or if you're like me, where you start your way to the giant and hope you can frantically comb through the wiki to the setup within the giant during the period of time in which you have the cutscenes and are walking there, and usually don't quite make it in time. But, there's always different setups for everyone.
Yeah, my setup usually just revolves around failing to do math. Looks like Ultros... I may have missed it. I thought she was going to Dwarf. I now see that she is saving outside Baron. Doing a package check. Okay. Maybe hoping for a foo. There's an Edge. Edge does give her access to steal Sirens, given that she is in Go mode. So she can take this Edge from the package, go steal Sirens from alerts and lower Babel, and can just get the levels and go from there. So I think that is probably what she is going to do from here on out.
That is a very interesting situation and not one I expected to see here, honestly, but we'll see how it ends up going for I think this is a pretty safe strategy if she goes that way. I'm a little bit concerned about how long it takes to get through this package check because it is a long time. That's a very long time. But we'll see. This is, again, a great opportunity to compare two completely different approaches to this level problem here.
Yeah, this is a situation where I would personally go through and take this Edge, head immediately to Mysidia, and figure out what I wanted my party composition to be. And I would actually just go go full Reflect at this point. And the reason I would do that is because going full Reflect would also give me access then to a Porum for the Cry command, and it would make stealing the Sirens even faster. So that would be the driving decision, is I would cut down on the time spent stealing Sirens, be able to leverage that into getting everyone to power overwhelming for mages, spend 2.5 minutes in the Z fight. It's a very tricky balance though, and very difficult to think about it on the fly. So I'm super curious what route Ultros goes here, but the decision to take Edge, I think, in Ultros' shoes is objectively the correct one.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way. Kurant unfortunately has to take a reset and redo the setup. Has somehow had an error there. Always difficult to deduce what that ends up being, but just ends up being a little bit of a problem either way. Does find a CPU coming into the inn, so computer very concerned that Edge is out and about when he shouldn't be. And also, another off-stream finisher that we have had at this point in time is going to be our third place finisher tonight, Cubs Rule 21, with a time of 1:29:40, so GG's to him as well.
Yeah, so GG's to our top three. That's going to be Kyrios, Funnel Cakes, and Cubs Rule, who I want to say if they're not 1, 2, and 3, they're all definitely right up there. So job very well done to those three. Looks like the Bard has been barred from the party here in Kaipo. Words are hard, towns are harder. And Ultras is going to be on her way over to likely steal some Sirens, and maybe we'll see her go to Mysidia and formulate a full party of her liking.
I think I would be tempted at this point, if my plan is to go full Berserker, to try and figure out whether or not I still need that Tella. That Tella, we know that Bacchus wines are available in the Eblin Cave shop. You can get around not having Berserk on 2 characters. There might be a world in which you might want, say, a fresh Sid who can act as an anchor a little tiny bit more than the setup that she currently has in her party. That could be a possibility. So there's many different ways here, and it does look like she is going to go back and shop for Bacchus's. So that might be on her mind here too.
Yeah, I 100% agree with this play, that you pick up those Bacchus's, go through and, just do away with any mage that you no longer need. Get rid of Atella for sure. Probably in this case, buying the Bacchus, going to see a Yang get picked up, and this might end up being an anchor and 4 melee characters, and just quad Zerk and put the controller down, step away, grab a drink, grab a bite to eat. Might even see the mythical Quint, or might see Ultros just go now and start the grind, steal the Sirens and start the grind. I personally think I still would have traded out the Tella for a level 1 Porum here, or level 10 Porum, just to get to use her for anchoring and also to be able to use the Cry command. But that's kind of a really niche optimization.
Yeah, and those niche optimizations do add up but I think in this case, just going with the comfort, I think, is where Ultros is at this point, and I gotta say, it's gonna work out fine for her, so I think she's well on her way. I think with this grind that Kurant has very stable right now so far, now that he's got this fully set up, he's gonna be on his way too. I'm not sure how many D machines he's gonna need for this party, but I would think it will actually be a fairly large number overall if he wants to take that Palom all the way up to at least Nuke, but I don't know. I don't know if he'll try and go all the way to Nuke with that Palom right now.
Well, he has the luxury of having exactly 10 key items and the life glitch, which means that he is effectively getting 160,000 XP per D machine for his characters. 320,000, I believe, per D machine for that Yang. So that Yang is going to be an absolute unit by the end of this. Unfortunately, ran out of MP on Tele here, so I'll have to wrap back around. But at 160,000 a clip, it's only going to take 6 of them to get Palom to Nuke with the life glitch. So really not that long a grind at all.
Absolutely. But while we have these grinds ongoing, it's probably a good time to note that we have had 2 more off-stream finishers as well. We've had 4th place tonight will be Usually Clueless with a time of 1:33:34. And in 5th place will be Super Joe with a time of 1:35:11. So GG's to both of them as well. And a very well run race for everyone who's gotten through it at this point, because this was definitely built around giving our puffs a bit of a challenge this week.
Absolutely, yeah. GG's to Clueless and to Super Joe. Job well done. And that is not great on Karan's side. When D Machine grinds go south, they go south in a hurry. Looks like we are going to get attempt number 3 on Karan's side. That is not the best feeling in the world. I have definitely been on both ends of that, the receiving end and the giving end, if you will. So not fun at all. Thoughts to Karant and his party on that, and hope he's still in a good mindset.
I feel like in this case, Karant is one of the people I can definitely say he's still gonna do just fine. He's really, really good at getting back on his feet, and at this point just needs to get this set back up, and he'll get through it eventually. It's one of those things where D Machine seems easy in theory. In practice, it's one of those things where if you don't have everything completely memorized and really 130% understand the script, you can just kind of have a bad time with it if something goes wrong. So on the whole, it's one of those things where he'll just get through it this time, I pretty much guarantee. Ultros, meanwhile, has started on the egg portion of her grind.
Yeah, and looks like 10 sirens were stolen, so that is going to math out to 680,000 XP for the team, which for Zerkers will place them in the high 40s for levels, and that will be more than enough.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at this point, just unfortunately due to that D Machine wipe, Ultros will almost certainly be in the Z fight before Karant at this point. But 2 very different approaches to the Z fight, and the Z fight is never guaranteed unless you're, level 80 on everyone or something similarly overinflated. But at this point in time, she'll have a bit of an advantage for this.
Yeah, the Edge is not going to be contributing a ton. I think Edge has a ninja sword, and I don't know what the other weapon was. Pain is so average. And Cecil obviously has a nice shiny sword for Ultros. So there is the possibility that you get a combo platter on Ultros' side if everyone doesn't get zerked up quick enough. But if you just go slot 1, 2, 3 Berserkers and just have them go drink on wine, they will be very drunk through Z, and there will be no second Big Bang, would be my estimation. So we'll see how it turns out. But I think really the only way that Ultros has any difficulty with Z is if there's exactly like a counter nuke on Rosa from an initial nerf, and then a combo platter at the end. That's just the power of Berserkers in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's definitely bringing back... This party brings me back to Lolly-Ho League last spring, because this looks pretty much exactly like a party you'd see in that tournament.
Yeah, not that different as far as flag settings, honestly, from the Lolly-Ho tournament, except obviously the forced hook portion. But party-wise, very similar. The fact that you can get free characters, that sirens would have been available in shops, or you can, sneak them. Pretty similar, and honestly not that bad. The Zerker strats are usually fairly safe, and of course you want to do anything you can to not D-Machine when Asuka is, the seed roller, because we know her feelings on D-Machines.
Exactly. But at the same time, she was saying earlier, she's been keeping an eye on everyone. She's been very pleased that there's been a very large variety of strats. So I think she's got to be happy that D-Machine is one of them, at least in this case.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many different strategies you can take to the seed because there's so many different routes to get to where you need to be. If you do Dwarf Castle, you have the Darkness Crystal, you have access to a lot of other things. You have access to 10 key items potentially. But if you don't have, those 10 key items, then it's going to take you a little bit longer to get there. Uh, you won't have levels that are quite as high. You might need to do a little more nerfing, and it'll be a little bit more of a skill test. So, as I say that, I completely forgot that Ultros does not have those 10 key items and is only getting 34,000 per egg, not 68. So those 10 sirens, while that's a good number, that's only going to get them to the mid 30s. Excuse me, the mid 40s or low 40s. It's not going to be high 40s. So that extra level of safety will be removed on Ultros' side.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if she might be tempted to go back and steal a couple more sirens, try and find a different chest to grab them off of at this point, because I kind of personally, and this is just my way of doing it, and I feel like I'm kind of at a skill level where this may be relevant to it, but I feel like 2000 is a good example HP level for where you're going to be pretty safe on Z from getting high rolled during Big Bang. You might still have it happen every now and again, but it won't happen that often. I'm going to wonder if she's going to be tempted to get just a little bit more HP onto that Edge and Rosa.
I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah, I think I took too long to explain that, and it answered itself in the meanwhile, which happens sometimes.
What is a little interesting to me is we're going in with an 11 agility Tela here, which means that Rosa is not going to be relative agility 1. It really won't matter too much. Once everyone is zerked up, they'll be fine. They'll still be getting 2 turns in for every one of Zeromus's, so it won't really be too big a deal. You just want to make sure that your Zerkers are getting drunk as soon as possible. We have a Ninja Sword and a Cat Claw. No, Ninja Sword, Short Sword. Not the best equipment, but good enough. I think we will have to see a second Big Bang get nerfed, though, because of the levels and the lack of strength here, especially on that Cecil. Pure optimization, you'd want to have the Power Shirt and the bandana on Cecil instead of on Kane here to take advantage of the multipliers on the power of the Excalibur. But again, it's not too big an issue. But looks like Ultros is going in and going to be getting the party started. Chat is letting me down a little bit though, and because I've been waiting and stalling and I'm yet to see anything. So I guess we're going to have to rely on our own power and maybe the power of our restreamer Neobari, because we have some Z flags in chat. I'm not tired yet. It's only 6:45 p.m. for me. It's been a long day, but not that long. I can't figure out for the life of me, Ent, what are those Z flags for?
I mean, personally, I know it's 6:45 and I'm ready for a nap. But secondly, so Zeromus is Zeromus. Zeromus is a difficult boss. Zeromus is the hardest boss in the game by a very large and wide margin, and moving him anywhere would not be fair to anyone whatsoever, and
Zeromus
probably wouldn't be
crowd?
that fun. So our wonderful, wonderful Scala Kitty has done some work behind the scenes on every seed that we have going on here, and now it pulls from a pool of over 500 different sprites that can be here instead of the standard Zeromus thing. So that does lead to the wonderful question of, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
And does it have a butt? And is it cute?
I feel like we need to start adding a few more things to this, but I can't think of what else. We need to make this string longer until it's as long as the spiel leading up to it. We need like a 20-question questionnaire of everything about this particular sprite.
Ooh, this is a sprite that is shaking quite a bit. We also have a bit of an awkward situation because I don't know if that edge is backroad. So I think we're going to get a zerked up Kane at some point, a zerked up Cecil for sure. Going to be interesting, but the moment of truth is here, and the butt that we are going to kick is Dirthamus. And I'm going to defer to you and chat, Ent, because I have not the slightest idea what this is from, because I'm a terrible video gamer.
According to Scala in chat, it's Dearth from Newtopia, which I would not get even though it looked familiar. Honestly, the joke I was going to use to avoid that question was to note that we have actually had 3 other off-stream finishers that we should mention really quickly, by the way. We've had Venicus in 6th place with a time of 1:40.12, CS Radical in 7th with a time of 1:45.19, and Gemini in 8th with a time of 1:47.03. So GG's to all of them, but it's time to see how Ultros fares in this fight, and there is a counter nuke on Rosa that we were concerned about.
Well, thankfully, though, that counter nuke did minimal damage. So that is good for Ultros. Let's see if we can get some folks zerked up here. 3,000 coming out of Cecil. I think darting everything possible. Ooh, darting the X-Gal. Was there a second? I guess that would have been a Zerk glitched X-Gal from the Avenger, so that's perfectly fine to dart now.
Yeah, free 7,000 damage. It's always free 7,000 damage, you know?
Definitely.
I just like the idea of that. You just sort of like tiptoe over to Cecil and just quickly swap his swords out before he notices and just throw the X-Cal before anything else happens there.
Oh, and according to chat, there was a second X-Gal from the lower Babel Trap chest. So Karant going to be headed to Zeromus, I believe, as well. Hot on Ultros' heels. Ultros is going to be doing a number here. Oh my goodness, I just saw... And did you see Karant's levels there?
I looked away for a moment, so I did not.
There were 7s in there.
Well, it's like you were saying earlier, it's what alchemy says, you know, safety's a strategy.
That, I'm pretty sure, is a level 70. Yeah, that's a 73 Palom and a 70 Yang. Yeah, hide your Zeromuses, because this sprite is about to explode on Karant's side.
You know, there's a chance that... Is there a chance that this goes fast enough that he can actually get this done first? I guess Ultros might have to wipe at this point, which of course we don't want, but is still a possibility at every point in time in this fight, because this fight is not free, at least not at the levels that Ultros is at. But, you know...
That's a perfect target for Ultros.
Yeah, that edge is not really doing much right now, honestly. I think the big question on Karant's side is if you just let this go, how many big bangs will it take to take Yang down if you just have him chug potions? Because I don't think anything could ever deal with him.
Yeah, it would take 3 full-powered big bangs to knock Yang out. That's a lot. That would be unnerved. We do have a cure coming out here from... So assuming the next action we see from Z will be either a black hole or a meteor or some combination thereof, this fight should be wrapping up for Ultros fairly soon. Really well-managed fight for Ultros so far.
Yeah, definitely. Also, as was just pointed out over on Karant's side, we have hit 1200 strats on the Tele, so that is another bonus here.
We've also hit 3300. Okay, hold on. This Palom has more HP than the Rosa. We have rocks on Ultros' side. We also have a Palom with more HP than the Cecil on Ultros' side. You just don't see these things every day.
It is very entertaining, but I think Ultros has this at this point.
I would agree with that. So we should be seeing a crumble, a flash, a crack, and all of that soon. Maybe there's a kamikaze floating around there, get some swag. But I think it's just going to be Zerk. Yeah, we get the quad Zerk here. Everybody's Zerked up just in time for Zeromus to perish. And that is Ultros Professional finishing the race in a time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 17 seconds. First place on Restream and 9th place overall. and I believe we will be joined by Ultros as soon as she's able to get in the booth.
Yep, and meanwhile, over on Karat's side, this is not going to take very long.
No, it will not. This is probably going to be hybrid strats, and I would assume we'll see a wall at some point go up. But while that wall is going up, while those nukes are being reflected, while those Zerkers are going on, that dinging in our ears means that Ultros has joined us. And GG's to you, Ultros. Job very well done this evening. Or this fine morning for you.
Yeah, just afternoon, 2 o'clock at the moment. But yeah. Wait, that was fun.
Yeah, extremely well done. I wanted to compliment you on your Ogopogo fight in particular. You were underground very quickly, and that was extremely well managed on the hook route for you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. I'm kind of glad it only took like one reset on both those fights because they were both real stinkers. I think particularly the Antlion one, I just sat there and thought, I just let it wipe me, just thinking like, how long is this going to take? Not very long at all. Like it's almost easier than hitting reset.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because, your early game was super clean, your hook route was super clean. The big turning point for you was the 800-pound gorilla in the room of Demist at Leviathan. What was your reasoning for taking that on? Was it simply because of like the pre-race discussion, the metagame stuff? Or was it just something you wanted to do?
I thought required Demist in a really ugly spot like that would probably be one of the mean things that Asuka might do to us. And then it was especially mean because it wasn't required, I suppose. Yeah, but it was just metagaming. Like, I think this seems harder than anything else I can do right now, so it's probably the thing I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Ant.
And I just want to say that I want to ask, what was your thought process in deciding to take that edge at that point in time? Was it just, sirens are the only option I have? Did you have a longer thought process than that at that point? And is that just sort of what went into that basically?
Yeah, just basically I need to grind right now, and I'm not going to search for Darkness Crystal, but I didn't have Luca Key, so door grinds not an option. And yeah, it just seemed to be sirens or looking for a machine grind. And sirens seemed like, if the package paid off, which it did, then that's going to be the quicker option. I'm not a big fan of playing with Edge in general. Like, I don't know. He's not my boy.
Yeah, he's a very useful character when applied correctly, but oftentimes with him being gated, it's very hard by the time you find him. You're kind of already committed to a party. And speaking of that, I wanted to ask,
if you don't have like swords and things.
Yeah. Were you committed to Zerkers basically the entire time once you found that X-Gal, or were you looking at other things?
Yeah, I think Zerkers was the go. I think we found some fairly decent gear for Kane, like Blizzard Lance pretty early on, and I was like, okay, seems like Kane's going to be our guy. And then when I found Cecil, I was like, okay, Zerker party is the way to go. Run into, I don't know if there's a Palom in the seed or a Fu, but hadn't run into them, so I didn't really plan for that eventuality. I thought we'll Zerk our way through. Most of the nasty fights you can have on the hook route are served well by Zerkers, except for probably Antlion. So yeah, I thought, okay, the hook route's probably going to be the main hurdle. So I think a Zerker party's probably the best thing we can take in there.
Yeah, I would say that was very well assessed. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there that, other than Antlion, almost everything is air quotes weak to Berserk. That would be nasty.
Yeah. I'm just very glad we didn't have Odin sitting there at the Ruby spot, because that was what I was dreading. I don't know how to do Thunderstruck strats, and when that Eddie showed up at the start, I'm like, oh no, we're going to have to, aren't we? But we didn't. So I'm glad about that.
A different kind of dread.
Yeah.
So, a question that I have, sort of going a bit beyond this race and like that. Obviously, we got plenty more Pink Puff League in front of us still. What are you? What would you possibly want to see out of future weeks here? Obviously, what ends up being on the table is only Asuka knows. But I'm curious as to what you're excited to possibly see in future weeks.
Oh goodness. Like in terms of things I'd like to learn that I haven't really done yet, like maybe something that requires MP underflow glitch. That's something I haven't learned yet. Or maybe like an Eddie Strats kind of Zeromus seed. Things like that are just like another step that I haven't taken yet with Free Enterprise, So I think, I'd, that's probably what would be most useful for me as a player. Otherwise, what I'd like to see just in terms of my mental health is no quick go modes. I hate jetty seeds and I panic so much. So just like nice linear friendly seeds, which I don't think are going to be coming my way, but that's that's what my anxiety is asking for.
Absolutely, but I think you've definitely proven today that you definitely have what it takes to get through anything that's been thrown at you. So again, just want to say you did absolutely wonderful watching, and especially on that hook route.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm pretty upset about the Fey March being a bust, but that's you gamble sometimes and it doesn't always pay off. Hey.
Yeah, that's just rando gonna rando, but you battled through it well. I dare say you were still very efficient in your clearing of everything, given how much you did clear in the seed and what you cleared and where the bosses were. So again, job very well done. It was a pleasure to watch, and thank you so much for volunteering to be restreamed tonight, because this would not have happened without you.
Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for this awesome community for having such a cool little league for people to skill up like this, and all the different people who give you tips and make it a really welcoming place. But especially shout outs to Infinius, who's been coaching me a bit. Big shout out to Infin and my partner, if you're watching, I love you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining us and being restreamed today. Again, ninth place today, Ultra Professional. Thank you very much for your run today.
Yeah, thank you, Ultros, and GG's again. And any final thoughts, you are more than welcome to spread them. But otherwise, we are going to be joined by Courant if there is nothing else from you today, Ultros.
GG's Courant, and I thought it'd be close between us. You were saying that I was going to whip you, but no, there was 9th and 10th place, and I think that's kind of nice in itself. GG's Courant.
GG Ultros, and I feel sufficiently whipped, but mostly by myself. So, but yeah, congratulations, good race.
All right, so we are joined by 10th place, 1 hour 55 minutes 19 seconds, Courant. First of all, GG's on getting through what was definitely a tough seed to deal with. What were your thought processes when you hit that really difficult fight on the hook route with that Ogopogo? Because I know you sort of struggled with it a little bit, and I'm interested in sort of the ways that you thought your way past that hurdle there.
Well, first of all, good evening, everybody. Thank y'all for putting up with my shenanigans tonight. As far as Ogo specifically, that was Hook 2, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, having Antlion at Hook 1 was not exactly the most pleasant of surprises to begin with, so I was very much appreciative of that. Thanks, Asuka! But also, insofar as Ogo was concerned, I mean, it was... One thing I was noticing was that my party members were having speed issues, especially with Ogo, who was basically smacking us around faster than we could say either syllable, well, any of the syllables of Ogopogo. So it was... And of course, I think I believe I took 3 tries to do that fight, if I remember correctly. So it was really what it came down to was I knew I was essentially I was essentially getting my tail handed to me. So it was, in essence, what I was wanting to do was, I had, of course, the party at the time was, particularly in terms of my mages, was Tella, Rosa, and Rydia. So what I ended up ultimately doing was just committing Tella and Rosa just straight healing. You might have noticed I was, in that third attempt, I was using them to heal regardless of whether my party members needed healing or not, because I wanted to keep it going continuously so that Rydia with Leviathan and the boys could have free reign to basically smack Ogo around, and then I finally got through it. But I admit, I felt pretty good coming into the hook route as far as my time, and I felt very bad coming out of the hook in regards to my time. So, oi, to say the least.
Yeah, one of the major differences between you and Ultros was that you did Eblin Castle, which got you an Avenger,
Right.
which then made it so you were going to most likely skip a lot of trap chests on the way through the hook route. Whereas Ultros did the Staleman chest and the Mad Ogre chest on the hook route. The big difference was there was an Excal from the Staleman. So one of you had an Excal, the other had an Avenger. Interestingly enough, neither one of you had both, so you had very different experiences. And it was incredibly interesting to watch the evolution as you both went through. And don't feel bad about like the Antlion wipe or Ogopogo. Like, I don't believe Ultros first tried either one of those either. I think that probably tripped up the majority of runners. Not an easy hook route with any team. And definitely takes some getting used to, especially for those speed shenanigans. And I think part of what you should be complimented on is you recognized what you needed to do and correctly applied it. You figured out a game plan, and if that took a couple sirens to do it, to get a little bit of extra health to survive some hits, that was perfectly applied. So, you know, third try is not bad. You made the adjustment you needed to, and you got through it.
Yeah, I mean, really what my thinking was after that second attempt, I knew that if I didn't do something to rectify, well, maybe not rectify, but at least to try to help the situation a little bit, it was just going to keep being head against wall. So that's why, because I knew I had 3 sirens, and I was planning on trying to pop one of them underground, which I never did remember to do, but I was planning to keep one of them for underground, but I knew that the other 2, I might as well go ahead and use them, because if I didn't get past that Ogo, then what's the point?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I mean, you did what you needed to do, though, to get through it, and that ultimately is kind of what's required for tough hook routes. So again, job very well done, and always a pleasure to get to see you race and to, you know, get to hang around with you, whether it be in comms or, you know, on the big screen. You know, always great to have you here.
Yeah, I'm mostly in the comms booth, so yeah, it's a little bit of a different experience being restreamed and raced. So I guess to some degree counts for part of the nerves. But you mentioning the difference between myself and Ultros, him having an Excal, me having an Avenger, the fact that the best thing I had was a Rune Axe and Avenger is why I ultimately made the swap to Yang before I did the D-Machine grind, because I knew that Excal, or not Excal, that Avenger Rune Axe Cecil was not going to do as much damage as a pumped up Yang, so that's why I made that switch toward the end.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I mean, you went in with, I mean, there's no way to undersell it. Levels in
I overdid
capitals.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I had. Admittedly, I knew that Life Glitch was on, but when I was going into the Giant, my main thought was, wait a minute, how much XP does the D Machine give again? And I knew I wasn't going to remember it, so I decided to go with over preparation rather than risk any under preparation. So when I saw those experience totals, I'm going, yeah, I overdid it. Whoops.
Better to overdo it than underdo it.
Exactly. Yeah, that was, once I figured out that I did not remember how much XP a D Machine gave pre or post Life Glitch, then I realized, okay, I'm just going to have to overdo this, and I'd rather take another couple of D Machines, and that adds maybe probably an extra minute to the grind, rather than underdoing it and then going, oh crap, I'm gonna have to find levels somewhere. And
Yeah.
this seed was not terribly well set up to do that particularly.
Yeah, definitely. But I think you did a great job. Again, always a pleasure to be able to see you in action.
I'm
Do you
glad
have
one
any
of us thinks so.
questions? Absolutely. And do you have any questions for Karan?
Well, first of all, I want to say that it is great watching you because you are one of the most persistent and tenacious people I've seen running it. That doesn't sound like as much of a compliment as I mean it, but you will always just keep going, and that's always really impressed me. So
Yeah,
I just
I
wanted to
am.
mention that real quick.
Oh yeah, I am. Well, anybody who watches my streams will tell you I am stubborn as words that are not fit saying in public. So, which it can be a strength, but it can also be a weakness. So I am trying to. What I'm trying to do in terms of the practice that I'm doing is learn when to continue to apply hard head to hard wall, or stop applying said head to said wall and try to find other means of getting things done. And I feel like my practice has gotten me at least a little bit better at that.
Definitely. And just one last question I wanted to ask you is:
Mhm.
Is there anything that you're looking forward to in possible future Pink Puff League flag sets?
No, I go into it basically submitting myself to the will of the all-powerful Asuka. So I'll take whatever she throws at us because I mean, in essence, I know it's designed to help make us better, and given my performances in Zemus Zones 3 and 4, I could stand to get better. So I'm not really looking for anything particular. I'll take whatever gets thrown at me.
All right. Well, did you have any final thoughts for us tonight, Karan? Anything else you wanted to mention before we start our sign off for the night?
Well, first off, I apologize to everybody for goofing up the D Machine grind so badly. I feel bad about, well, any number of things. But thank you, Possum and Nth, for doing the commentary. Thank you, Tybalt the Tracker, although your Discord name says Tybalt the Gambler, for tracking. And thank you, Niabari, for the restream. I appreciate all y'all helping out. Of course, me being on the restream crew myself, of course, I've been on the other end, so I definitely appreciate y'all putting up with us tonight, or mostly putting up with me. And thank y'all on Free Enterprise for watching. I've got some notes waiting on me from Mecha Link, who has been very gracious to help me out with the practice and has some stuff for me to read tonight. So I will do that. I'm not a fan particularly of watching back the restreams because I get too angry at past me, but I will read the notes and will hopefully use them to improve from there. So thank you all, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to be restreamed.
All right. Well, thank you again, Karan. Our, again, 10th place finisher tonight. And still under 2 hours. So I remember a point in time where your goal was just to get under 2 hours. So you're definitely achieving your dreams.
This is true, yes.
So always remember, always making progress. And I think that's gonna about wrap it up for tonight. We did have 2 more off-stream finishers. We had 11th place JMac the Librarian with a time of 1:59.44, as well as HeartGamer26 in 12th place with a time of 2:09.17. So GG's to both of them as well. And I think that's gonna about wrap us up for tonight, Possum.
I do believe it is going to wrap us up for this evening. There is a no raid target this evening. However, we do want to make sure that y'all are aware that there is a community race tomorrow night. That is the Friday edition. And then on Saturday, of course, we have the Hero's Journey that is going to take place. That is the club that is run by Alchemy. Of course, huge thank you to everyone behind the scenes. Niabari doing the restream, Tybalt doing the tracking, and my wonderful co-commentator, and our runners this evening, Courant and Ultras Professional. And I think that's about all I got. So any closing remarks for you? It's been a pleasure as always.
Yep, just a thank you to you as well, Possum. It's been absolutely wonderful, as it always is. And please, by all means, if you enjoyed tonight, make sure you're back here tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, for that community race. It's using the Omnidextrous Wacky flag, which I think this is probably better off explained by whoever's is on the commentary shift tomorrow, because it is quite, as the name implies, wacky. So look forward to seeing that, and hope we'll see you all tomorrow night as well.